Guyana's Sea Wall, the Dutch engineering that holds back the Atlantic. Welcome to Global Explorer, where we travel beyond borders to uncover the world's most fascinating places. Today, we journey to Guyana, a small but extraordinary nation on the northern coast of South America. A land of dense rainforests, mighty rivers, and a coastline unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. Here, the ocean isn't just beside the land, it's always trying to reclaim it. Much of Guyana's coastal plain, including its capital city, Georgetown, sits below sea level. Without protection, the Atlantic Ocean would steadily push inland, swallowing homes, roads, and farmland. Entire communities depend on a silent guardian that stands between land and sea. That guardian is Guyana's sea wall, a man-made defense stretching for miles along the coast, holding back the power of the Atlantic and protecting a nation built below the tides. The story begins in the 17th century when Dutch settlers first arrived on Guyana's muddy coastline. What they saw was fertile land, but also a dangerous one. Twice a day, the Atlantic tides surged inland, flooding fields and settlements. To survive here meant learning to control the water. Drawing from centuries of experience at home, the Dutch introduced a system of dikes, canals, and drainage sluices. They didn't fight nature blindly. They studied it. They observed the tides, mapped the flow of rivers, and reshaped the land with careful precision. Slowly, the coastline transformed from a swampy frontier into a protected agricultural plain. Over time, these early defenses evolved into what we now know as the Guyana Sea Wall. Built and rebuilt across generations, the wall became more than stone and concrete. It became a symbol of endurance. Every block represents the labor of workers, the vision of engineers, and the determination of communities who refuse to surrender their land to the sea. But the battle is never truly over. The Atlantic is relentless. Waves crash with the force of storms, erosion eats away at the shore, and climate change raises new questions about the future. Maintaining the seawall requires constant vigilance, repairs, reinforcements, and modern engineering solutions layered onto a foundation centuries old. Yet despite the challenges, the wall still stands. It protects cities, preserves farmland, and safeguards the daily lives of hundreds of thousands of people. For Guyana, it is not just infrastructure, it is a lifeline. And as we explore its history, design, and impact, we uncover a deeper story, one about humanity's ability to adapt, to innovate, and to build hope in the face of nature's greatest forces. The challenge: a land below the sea. Georgetown and its surrounding villages sit on a narrow coastal plain. It's fertile, full of life, and perfect for farming. But there's a catch. The land is extremely flat and at high tide. It's actually below the ocean's level. This made the region incredibly vulnerable to flooding, especially during storm surges and heavy rains. In the 17th and 18th centuries, European settlers realized this was a problem that needed a solution. Traditional embankments and natural barriers were not enough. They needed something ingenious, reliable, and long-lasting, and they found their answer in Dutch water management techniques. Dutch expertise from Amsterdam. The Dutch have been fighting the sea for centuries. Cities like Amsterdam sit below sea level, protected by dikes, canals, and complex drainage systems. They mastered the art of living with water, not just fighting it. Every canal, every sluice gate, every dike was carefully designed to manage tides, rainfall, and flooding. When Dutch engineers arrived in Guyana, they immediately recognized the similarities. The flat, clay-rich coastal plain reminded them of home. They saw that the Atlantic Ocean could be just as relentless as the North Sea if not properly managed. And they realized that the techniques perfected in Amsterdam could be adapted for Guyana's tropical climate. Who built the sea wall? Ideas alone could not protect Guyana. It took people to bring those ideas to life. The planning and design were done by Dutch engineers, using their expertise from Amsterdam to create a system of walls, canals, and gates that could control both tidal water and rainwater. But the physical labor was carried out by local workers, including Africans and Indian indentured laborers, and even convicts who were tasked with quarrying stone and transporting materials. Skilled craftsmen ensured the masonry and concrete sections were built to last. It was a collaboration that combined European expertise with local knowledge and labor, creating a system that was stronger and more resilient than anything that had existed before. When it was built, construction of the first masonry seawall began in 1858, following a devastating flood in 1855 that overwhelmed the earlier embankments. The initial sections were completed by 1860, but the wall was built in phases over several decades, extending both east and west along the Atlantic coast. By the late 1800s, the wall stretched past Georgetown to protect nearby villages, farmland, and critical infrastructure. The construction process was not a single event, but a continuous effort, requiring decades of planning, material transport, and maintenance, much like the ongoing work in Amsterdam, where the battle against water is never truly finished. Where the wall was built, the wall stretches approximately 280 miles, 450 kilometers, along the Atlantic coast, protecting the most populated and fertile parts of the country. In the west, it reaches Vrede and Hoop and Parika. In the east, it protects Buxton, No. 63 village, and the surrounding communities. In Georgetown, it forms not only a protective barrier but also a cultural and social space, with landmarks like the Sea Wall Bandstand, where generations of Guyanese have gathered to enjoy music, festivals, and community events. How it was built. The Dutch didn't simply replicate Amsterdam, they adapted their methods to a new environment. Earth embankments were constructed first, using clay-rich soil compacted into sloped mounds. Stone reinforcement was added to withstand the Atlantic Ocean's stronger waves, a step beyond the typical Dutch dikes in Europe. Masonry and reinforced concrete were used in critical sections to provide durability for centuries of use. Drainage canals were dug behind the wall to safely carry rainwater inland back out to sea. Cokers, sluice gates, were installed to control water automatically, opening at low tide to release inland water and closing at high tide to keep seawater out. Materials arrived first by ship to Georgetown's port, then were transported by river barges, carts, and manual labor to the construction sites. Each step required careful coordination, a true engineering marvel adapted to tropical conditions. Dutch principles still relevant today. Even over 160 years later, the fundamental principles of Dutch engineering remain. The wall deflects waves, manages tides, and works with canals and gates to regulate water, just as Amsterdam's dikes do. Modern upgrades, such as rock armor, reinforced concrete, and mangrove restoration, continue to follow these principles, showing the timeless wisdom of Dutch water management. Culture and community along the wall. The seawall is more than an engineering structure. Over time, it has become a cultural hub. Families walk along it at sunset, children fly kites during Easter, musicians play at the seawall bandstand, and vendors sell snacks. What began as a life-saving structure has become an integral part of Guyanese life. Modern challenges and climate change. The seawall faces new challenges today. Rising sea levels, stronger storms, and erosion threaten the coastal communities it protects. Guyana is responding with modern adaptations, such as strengthening sections with rock armor, upgrading drainage and pump systems, restoring mangroves to naturally buffer waves. All these solutions are rooted in the same Dutch philosophy: manage water wisely, don't just fight it. From Amsterdam to Guyana. The Guyana Sea Wall is more than stone and concrete. It is Dutch expertise transplanted and adapted, built by human hands, and tested by the Atlantic Ocean for over a century. It protects millions of lives, enables communities to thrive, and even serves as a place of recreation and culture. Next time you see the waves crashing against the wall, remember, this is a structure born of vision, knowledge, and human resilience. Inspired by Amsterdam and perfected in Guyana. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of Guyana's history, culture, and beauty.